Welcome to this video about Gate 4 in our Gates process as we are doing work with you and your organization. We have already covered in a previous video Gates 1, 2, and 3. Gate 1 was about the project transfer, Gate 2 was about really forming connection with you, and Gate 3 was about starting to understand your strategic vision and mapping and sketching that out. Gate 4 is about making the plan. And the macro is one of those key things. And it's very unique to Elevate and LeanTakt because in the United States system where we do most of our work, the milestone is key. If you start to promise, like CPM does, an early milestone target, and you promise that to the owner, you will experience delays and impacts, you will overrun the milestone, and it will be a nightmare, hurt your relationship, cause stress, relationship with the owner, cause stress, and keep you away from your families at home. We don't want that. So the macro Takt planning art, and I'm going to call it an art, it is also a science, but the art of macro level Takt planning will make sure that your milestones are set properly so that you will gain time and do better and not enter that panic and that downward productivity spiral. And you will be the hero on the job, but also have a very, very compelling and competitive milestone date for the owner. So we're not we're not promising some long duration that's irresponsible. We're talking about competitive dates, but dates where later on after the pull plan you'll be able to gain some buffers and be safe. So Gate 4 is all about creating that macro level Takt plan, planning your pull plan dates so that we can work phase by phase, delivering all of the final logistics, maps, zone maps, and the procurement log per your macro, reviewing it internally, I'll talk to you more about that in a minute, doing a project review from a risk standpoint, and then hosting the Fresh Eyes meeting. This right here is the most important thing. According to the book, How Big Things Get Done, projects don't typically, he says don't go wrong. I'll say don't typically go wrong. They start wrong. So we must do the Pixar, DreamWorks internal review so that we're making a good movie. But in this case, we're making a good project. And we at least want to see one of these, if not three, one of these days once we all as an industry get really good at it. So let's talk about Gate 4. The first step here is the macro level Takt plan. And if this is done right, you'll see the legend, which will correspond to the phases. You will see these beautiful 5-day Takt time wagons with the colors showing your overall strategic plan. And you will see the supportive elements like when you should be hosting your pull plans, starting your pre-con meetings, and your procurement, meaning your supply chain, your long lead supply chain items. And you can include things like deferred submittals and the trade partner preparation process. But at a minimum, start and end milestones, your overall strategic plan, your visual maps, and your supply chain and other triggers at a minimum. Now the key for a macro level Takt plan is that you can see it all on one page. And this is how we tear it apart. So at the end when we talk about the Fresh Eyes meeting, like you can't do a Fresh Eyes meeting or a risk review unless you can actually see the plan. Now each of these phases with the wagons, so wagons are groupings of tasks and then these are your zones. Each of these phases will be mathematically calculated to be correct and set the right milestone target. You'll also see your milestones up there at the top if this has been done right. And you'll see the path of critical flow. The path of critical flow is different than a critical path in that a critical path has activities, durations, logic ties, and obviously then a sequence. A path of critical flow has your activities, durations, logic ties, sequence, but trade flow and buffers. Those last two are key. So you'll see that you have trade flow because it's impossible to incline that and have ask or force one crew to work in multiple areas or to trade stack and have too many trades in one area unsafely. It's impossible to do that. So we show what's real, and there are buffers built in throughout the system with the calculator, which I'll show you in a minute. So this path of critical flow, we cannot confuse that with a critical path. A critical path is the worst thing that will ever happen to you. You should never have a path with zero float, or buffers, where if any activity is delayed, it will delay the whole project. You should never have that. You should have a path of critical flow where post-pull plan you can still gain time and gain buffers. So in this macro level takt plan, the key points are that each phase has a milestone and buffers, and that you have an overall plan that you can review. This is your strategy. Now what I want to show you here is at the bottom. Anna did this for me so I could show you this. If this is your macro level strategy, which is competitive, you can win work with it, and it's fair to the owner, and it's according to what the industry can typically do, post pull plan, meaning once you get the trade partners on board, you should be able to incline that and have an earlier target date, which will be what you call your norm. And this green image right here is what we would call your backup. Meaning when you change the zoning strategies, this end date will pull in, pull in. So the calculator will calculate these phases to where this is your milestone, but we will post-pull plan gain buffers. And then if we ever experience a big like force majeure problem or the owner wants us to accelerate, we actually have a backup strategy as well. And the key to remember here is that with these different options, 1, 2, 3, we never shorten the trade partner's time. The time that they have to do their activities. It never shortens their durations, but it still inclines the phase because you have smaller batch sizes. So your macro, in summary, sets the milestones, the strategy, and enables us through the calculator to later gain buffers for our production target and have a backup. So that's what we're doing in this phase, and I want to see that fairly well put together by this gate, by gate 4. Now the second thing is pull plan dates. When I say guess here, because the biggest sin in takt planning and in construction planning in general is I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the procurement log. I'm waiting because I don't have design. I'm waiting. We don't wait for anything. And I'm not trying to provide a lecture. I'm just saying our folks at LeanTakt are constantly moving forward. Procurement, I don't care if we're using ChatGPT right out of the gate. The macro level takt plan, I can make it off of a napkin sketch. Pull plan dates, let's go. I don't need a perfect date to schedule a pull plan. We never, ever, ever, ever wait at LeanTakt and Elevate. So that's why I say guess. I don't care if it's a guess. Let's get that on the calendar and go. So for each of those phases, so in your macro you have phase, 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 right? I want to see when is the date where you'll do the pull plan, where you still have time if you need to redo the pull plan, and when you start the actual phase, meaning the start of the phase. And I want this date to be 3 months at least before the phase starts if possible. And so if we set these dates, then we can make sure that we'll get the pull plan and realize this production level strategy in enough time for us to execute that phase properly. Now the other thing, this might sound silly, but please bear with me, is as a part of gate 4, we want to make sure that you're planning to create the visuals and the layout of your conference room trailer properly. Now you might be like, Jason, I don't need your help with that. Hey, I love you all very much. This is an overall system. We've got to make sure that it's planned properly. And two of the most important things that I need to support you is to have the yellow team boards on the wall and the blue identify boards. Now these blue identify boards will have visual maps where in your trade partner meetings you will identify, discuss, and solve roadblocks. These must be visual. At the front of this overall conference room, you will have your TV screen and your other maps. And on the other wall, you can have your logistics plan, your macro, your other visuals. But I've got to have these yellow boards and these blue boards, and I need you to trust me. So each project that we work with, each client that we work with, our VDC group, our AI VDC group, will literally model your trailer, model the visuals, and work with you on that. But if you, and I'm trying to be connecting. If you're like, no, I don't want those, it will break the system. Because these boards are designed to organize your project delivery team identify, discuss, and solve roadblocks. Your screen in the front is to pull up all of your other scheduling deliverables for the meeting. And if we don't have 1, 2, 3, then your conference room won't be set up to have the right meeting. So please, please, please trust us. Please work with us on the conference room layout. It must be set up properly because people talk about what they see. And if you can't see the right things, you won't talk about the right things, which means you won't have the right meetings, which means you won't have the right outcomes. So we must finalize all of the macro deliverables and make sure that those macro deliverables, remember we talked about the logistics plans, are up to date and posted. That our zone maps are up to date and posted, and down here on the blue boards. That your macro level Takt plan is up to date and posted, especially if you have executives walking into your trailer. And that all of your Takt steering and control boards are up to date and posted, up to date and posted. And that anything you want to see on the wall is final formatted so that your team can interact the way they want, and so that your executives can see evidence of these systems being implemented on site, and so that people's mindsets can start training in this direction. So this is absolutely crucial. So we will complete the logistics plan, the zone maps, the macro level Takt plan with you but for you, meaning doing the things that you don't need to be doing because your job is more important, and getting the control boards ready to go. The next step is to make sure that this is starting to be reviewed and used in meetings. If we post these and they're not being used, it doesn't do us much good. The key here is, can we get your conference room ready to go to where these are the tools from which the job is being run? So yes, we finalized all the macro deliverables, but are we using them? And the key here is that however you position them on the wall, they are useful enough and understood by the project team, and if there's any corrections that need to be made, that we've made them for you. So the other part to this Gate 4 is that we review this internally. Everything that we've made thus far, by the way, we have a development checklist where we make sure we're on track. Everything that we develop, we put on a Miro board and we review internally with the entire company. Every Tuesday and Thursday in the morning for 30 minutes, we will bring up a project and say, hey, we're reviewing project such and such. These are the steps, and we have 5 different checklists that we go through that will review the format, the strategy, optimization strategies, layout, and flow of everything that we have created for you. So it's not just the internal team or the cluster or the pod that's working on this. We get the fresh eyes from the entire company. That is a requirement in Gate 4 to make sure that we are doing our internal checks. The other thing that we want to do, which is even more important than the last one, is to review it with the project team. Now here's the thing that I love. I love the way this is put together. You see these little fireballs with numbers. The fireballs with numbers over here are problems that the project team sees with this overall strategic plan. And the little blue water droplets are, okay, we've created a solution. So if you see this, it just means there's a problem. If you see this with the water droplet, it means we also have a mitigation strategy for that. So here's the point with this. We want to tear this plan apart, completely, brutally tear it apart. This is like the Pixar brain trusts. Now, we don't want to make anybody cry, but where artists literally will go to a Pixar brain trust and leave crying because their original story, their original timeline, their original characters, they were all torn apart. And I don't know if you've seen any of the recent movies from either Pixar or DreamWorks, but they are phenomenal. Like Hopper, phenomenal. Bad Guys 2, phenomenal. Let me talk about Bad Guys 2 for just a minute. There wasn't a second of wasted time in that movie. Everything, the plot flowed, the characters were well developed, it was interesting, it was funny. I was laughing. I'm a 44-year-old man. I'm freaking laughing at a kid's movie because they tore it apart. Please, 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 I'm asking you, I'm begging you, please do not skip the process of tearing this apart. And you can read a Takt plan. If somebody's like, oh, I don't know how to read it. Yes, you do. I love you, and I'm not being condescending. The phase labels are here. You can see exactly what's happening. These are the number of zones. These are the activities. You can see how they're tied in. Dig into this and you will have a great plan. The entire team will see it. You will utilize the genius of the team according to lean thinking. And if you're a project director or a general superintendent, what better visual could you have than this to make sure that your project is set to be on track? If I was a general superintendent or field director again or a project director again, I would never have a project where I couldn't see the project at a glance and the risks. This is how we make sure the project goes well. So tear it apart and review this in depth, and our team will ask you to do that with the overall plan. And all of this is leading towards our last step, which is the fresh eyes meeting. Everything is culminating here. We have instructions on how to host the fresh eyes meeting, the agenda, we have template boards, but the bottom line is we need to get as many fresh sets of eyes who have experience with this type of project into a room, and excuse my language, but we're going to go into the poop glasses mode, meaning for 15, 20 minutes, nobody's allowed, you can call it the real S cuss word if you want, nobody's allowed to be positive or say that's okay. We're literally just tearing it apart with guests, fresh eyes, inside this meeting. And the idea here is we're doing a Pixar brain trust. We're doing a DreamWorks review. They make those movies 8 times before you see the final 9th movie. So we at least need to do this once. Before this goes out to trade partners and before we attempt to execute it, we need to tear it apart and remake the movie, as they say, with fresh eyes so that we get a different perspective. And guess what? Each of these items will be cataloged as notes, and you'll also review the procurement log, but they will get cataloged as notes. And if they are real risks or opportunities, they will go on the risk and opportunity register. This is one of the most important tools that we have. Not only will we now have a really nice baseline strategy, not CPM baseline, but baseline strategy, and a project that we can build with great milestones that's going to win, but also we have a risk and opportunity register where the team can every week go through each of the items and say who's on point to make sure that these days and dollars don't actually hit us and hurt us. There's a company we worked with a long time ago, their gross profit plateaued, and we were like, no, you need a risk and opportunity register. Every week, your team's trying to get rid of the risks and realize opportunities. And their gross profit target started to climb. They're at 26% and climbing as of the time that we stopped doing work because they were good to go. We finished our retainer. And literally, it was like the most beautiful development in the company because they were actually increasing their financial health. So the key is go into this fresh eyes meeting with new sets of eyes, tear the plan apart, which gets us a great plan, look at the procurement, look for all of the risks, and then log them if they are real. There's only a couple ways to get rid of risks. You can cover it with contingency, you can plan it away to where it doesn't happen, or you can take it out of fee, which nobody's going to want to do. But wish thinking, hoping it won't happen, is not a thing. There is no fourth option here. So we can't look at that, I think we'll be fine. I think we'll be fine. We need a 10th man or woman, meaning a critical set of eyes, throughout the meeting to say, no, let's log this down, let's log this down, let's log this down, and make sure that those days and dollars don't actually hit us, that we actually have planned it or covered it, and we've never gotten into the trap of wish thinking. So the important point here is the fresh eyes meeting is key to identifying and resolving potential project risks with the team and ensuring a strong start. So this really is the ultimate end of gate number 4. We need to make sure that it's at least planned. And that then takes us into gate 5.1. I hope you've enjoyed this video. On we go.